In the late 1980s, we had to pass around grainy, fan-subtitled VHS tapes like this just to watch cutting-edge anime like Mobile Suit Gundam. Today, with the streaming rights scattered and Blu-rays out of print, I realized a sad truth. Being a Gundam fan in the West is almost as hard now as it was back then. This is a story how a 30-year-old tape revealed the future of anime. So I remember the early days, back before streaming, before official Blu-rays, when fan-made VHS tapes were the only way to see many anime shows and movies that we were ravenous for. Fans made them and passed them around at conventions and through immense networks of copying facilitated by fans at various college campuses. This was the underground, and it was the only way to see anime that wasn't commercially available in the West. Recently, I found a digital ghost from that era. An MP4 video file made from an old nth generation VHS copy of Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack, translated by fans. I copied it to my PlayStation 3 and hooked it up to a CRT TV, and what I experienced was incredible. It was more than just a movie. It was an insight into anime's past and a reflection on its future. I was granted these surprising psychic truths. Like a new type flash, it made me feel like the Gundam hero Amuro Ray when he first connected to the psychic lover Lala Sun. This is a story how a lost artifact, Vaporwave Aesthetic, revealed the sad truth about being a Gundam fan now and then. Before we get to the movie, we need to talk about the virtual tape. This isn't just a different version of the film, it's a historical document. For many of us growing up in the 80s and 90s, this was the reality of anime fandom. There was no Crunchyroll, no official releases for most series, and if you really wanted to see something, you had to rely on the fan-subbing groups. Now, these were passionate, dedicated fans who would import a Laserdisc or a VHS tape from Japan, and then a translator would transcribe the dialogue by ear. Then someone, often using an Amiga computer with a video toaster video overlay device, would painstakingly time and overlay subtitles onto the video. From there, a tape tree would begin, with fans mailing copies to each other, creating copies of copies, and the quality degraded with each generation. But that was the price of admission. This tape is a relic from that era, a digital preservation of the physical object that was once a treasured key to this whole other world of anime. Now, the first thing that hits you when watching this artifact is the glorious VHS aesthetic. The image that came up on my CRT was a perfect storm of retro tech. It had tape distortion, faded colors, and glowing chroma lines at the bottom of the screen. It was so incredibly vaporwave. These visual artifacts aren't flaws. They are the sacred texture of that entire experience. The colors bleed on the pilots' faces, the soft glowing scan lines. It's a visual quality that's completely lost in the modern, crystal clear digital media. These imperfections feel like a dreamlike, hypnotic part of the experience, capturing the strange sense of deja vu and ooey. This movie is so incidentally vaporwave. There is an inherent melancholy to this story. Both heroes are incredibly broken people and have suffered a loss in their ideology and loved ones. And this feeds into the vaporwave aesthetic even more. So what even is vaporwave? The Aesthetics Wiki describes it as an art movement from the 2010s, obsessed with the recent past. It mashes up things like old 90s web design, classical statues, and Japanese text. At its core, it is about nostalgia for a future that never happened, often as a critique of consumer culture, and the idea of a future that never happened connects perfectly to Char's grand idealized utopian plan for humanity to move to orbital space colonies and have their souls freed of Earth's gravity. Of course, he's going to do that by crashing asteroids into the planet, killing billions and forcing the survivors to flee, but I digress. So this isn't just nostalgia talking. The degradation generally enhances the film in ways the creators never intended. As the Londo Bell Federation fleet appears, you can see this incredible color bleed. The reds and blues of the mobile suits shimmer against the black of space. Classic example of chromic aberration from tape wear. It makes the scene feel ethereal and dreamlike. In a close-up of Char in his mobile suit, the reds are oversaturated, bleeding into the darker colors, and you can see faint horizontal lines of tape noise against the bottom of the frame. Now, it really adds a layer of grit and intensity to the shot that the clean digital version just doesn't have. When Amuro launches the new Gundam, the whole sequence has a faded, washed-out look. It gives the scene a sense of melancholy and weight, as if you're watching a faded memory of a legendary event. Now, during the intense psychic flashback sequence, the visual effects are amplified by the tape distortion itself. The colors smear across the screen, and visible tracking errors make the image wobble. The technical flaws of the tape merge with the on-screen chaos to create something genuinely upsetting and powerful. This aesthetic is a direct consequence of the technical constraints fans had to work with. Now, to fit a 2-hour movie on a standard T120 tape, they had to record at LP speed or long play. This doubled the capacity, but it destroyed the quality, introducing the soft image, tracking errors, and chroma shifts that give the film this unique dreamlike feel. The film also contained a bright, vibrant 1980s color palette. The aesthetic we're enjoying is a direct, unavoidable consequence of the technical constraints fans had to work with back then. The experience highlights the difference between the art and the artifact. The Blu-ray is the art as the creator intended it to be. Pristine, clear, and definitive. But this digital VHS tape file is an artifact. It is the perfect non-aging encapsulation of the authentic experience of a fan from that specific era. It captures the exact state of the degraded multi-generation tape at that single moment in time, preserving all that 1980s analog vaporwave goodness forever. It's not just the movie. It's the proof of the passion, the technology, and the hazy, dreamlike atmosphere in which a whole generation of anime fans first discovered a masterpiece. For a lot of Western anime fans, watching this movie as their first exposure to Mobile Suit Gundam must have been a very bizarre experience. So you have to understand the history. Mobile Suit Gundam first aired in 1979. It was originally conceived of a way to sell officially licensed giant robot toys. But surprisingly, it explored themes of war, the moral ambiguity of national conflict, PTSD, and trauma. It introduced the real robot genre, where everything worked on an internal logic based on real-world physics. The story of the One-Year War was prematurely canceled after 43 episodes, but it was re-edited into a series of commercially successful and fan-beloved movies that retold and condensed the tale with redrawn animation. Then in the mid-80s, the story continued with Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, which further developed the larger-than-life hero and villains, Amuro Ray and Char Aznavour. After a more comedic detour with Mobile Suit Double Zeta Gundam, we finally arrive at the film Char's Counterattack. You would have been completely lost. And to understand why, you need to have a quick history lesson on almost a decade of anime. This movie is the dramatic final conclusion between these two titans in a quite literal earth-shattering conflict. Its ending was handcrafted by the series director Yoshiyuki Tomino, who really liked killing off characters dramatically. So watching this movie first without any of that context would be a psychotic blur. There are unexplained space colonies, giant robots called mobile suits, complex political intrigue, and new type psychic warfare. Its brisk pace and high death toll would have been baffling to the uninitiated, and that is how many fans saw it. This film operates with the absolute assumption that you already have nearly a decade of emotional baggage with these characters. An early fan watching that VHS tape would have been completely lost on several crucial points. The history of the Char-Amuro rivalry, the ghostly psychic visions of Lala Soon, and Char's shocking turn back to villainy after his heroic phase in Zeta Gundam. It's a testament to the film's raw power that it is still so compelling, even when a huge portion of its narrative is completely lost for its initial Western audience. They had to become anime pop culture archaeologists, piecing the backstory together years later, but many fans just watched it for its mind-blowing, frantic space combat between brightly colored giant mecha mobile suits. Char Aznavour is a broken man by this point in the Gundam story. His psychic rival, psychic lover, former obsession, Amuro Ray, is also horribly scarred and visited by the ghost of Lala Soon, a psychic woman who became new type lovers of both Char and Amuro. Tragically, she died at Amuro's hands when she threw herself in front of the Gundam's blade intended for Char. Char is a tragic Shakespearean figure, a villain becoming a hero only to return to mass destruction, while still seeing himself as the savior. There's a deep melancholy to him, and we're meant to understand, if not condone, the horrible things that he's about to do. I used to not understand how the people of the spacefaring nation of Zeon could go along with their national leader's insane plan to crash an asteroid into Earth, and now I get it. I completely see how a nation of good people can be manipulated into doing acts of monstrosity. It is through propaganda and the fervent nationalism that good people could be convinced that a truly horrific act is not only justified, but necessary. And Gundam was exploring that idea decades ago. By the way, I'm talking about crashing an asteroid into the Earth. So Mobile Suit Gundam has always had soldiers in their teens fight and have to deal with the tragedy of war. That being said, Char is a creep who is manipulating and grooming a teenage girl, Quest, for her better than average psychic giant robot flying powers, and he's slightly creepy for doing that. I'm not going to give him a pass here. But anime fans in the late 1980s that traded VHS cassette tapes that we got at conventions weren't expecting a morality play. We just wanted to see some damn cool giant robot space combat, and this film has quite a bit of it. This fan sub has some unique linguistic choices. The aesthetic isn't the only piece of history here. The translation itself is an artifact. On this VHS tape, the Principality of Zeon is called Gion, and to our modern ears that sounds strange, but is perfectly logical for the time. The Japanese name is Gion, which romanizes directly to Gion, and the spelling of Zeon as Z-E-O-N is an official stylistic choice made by Bandai for their international branding. But in the late 1980s, a fansubber working from a VHS tape had no internet to cross-reference. So you see this again with a famous rallying cry, Sig Zion. On this tape, it's translated as Axis Gion, And these weren't mistakes. They were creative solutions from a time when fans had to figure out everything on their own. The melancholy of the experience of being a Gundam fan in the West has come full circle. This journey through relics of the past reveals a surprising truth about the present. The Fansub era, 1980s to 1990s. The problem was a near total lack of official distribution. The content existed on the other side of the world, and the only way to access it was through the passionate underground efforts of fan-subbers and tape traders. It was an act of cultural archaeology to piece the story together. The physical media era, the 90s to 2010s. For a time, everything Gundam was on sale as DVDs and Blu-rays. This era is sadly now over. Many of the excellent Blu-ray sets are out of print and have become expensive collector's items. As of 2025, everything is out of print. Crunchyroll, which is owned by Sony, purchased Right Stuff, and for some reason they can't seem to get more US Gundam Blu-rays into production. Personally, I find that hard to believe. Sony freaking invented Blu-rays. This might be a monopoly in action where a company doesn't want people to have access to physical media to sell more streaming subscriptions, which they have. Japanese fans have access to Gundam anime on physical media, and supporting them has been a core business for Bandai. The problem now is digital media fragmentation and impermanence. Streaming rights are a maze. A show can be on a service for a year and then completely vanish. Like when Mobile Suit Gundam 0083 was recently pulled from Crunchyroll before I was going to watch it. Other beloved series have had notoriously spotty availability for years. The massive anime legacy of Gundam has been randomly split between streaming platforms, and a good portion of it is completely unavailable. And this is not just the old stuff. There are Gundam series that were made this century that are now out of print and not streaming anywhere. And the end result for the fans is exactly the same as it was back in the days of tapes. There is a frustrating feeling of knowing that there's this massive, incredible universe of anime out there, but you're separated from it by a wall. In the past, that wall was the Pacific Ocean and a language barrier. Today, it's a confusing maze of digital rights, increasingly rare physical discs, and expiring streaming licenses. This journey back in time, watching this artifact, showed me that sometimes, even with all our advances, access can still be a huge challenge. So what do you think? Have you ever had an anime experience like this, where the way that you watched something was just as important of what you were watching? Let me know down in the comments. My new type cat here, this guy, wanted to let you know that we make awesome videos like this each week. So make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss them by hitting that subscribe button. It's free. And let the YouTube robots know that you like this video by hitting that like button. Thanks for watching. This is 8-Bit Joystick. Stay awesome. Play retro.